And 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. It's John, your Indian Cine-MANIAC, with another 20-minute review. That's right, 20-ish-minute, because I'm going to have a guest coming on in the second half. Sean Paul Murphy, famous author and screenwriter, is going to join me in the second half to review this film. Again, we're doing this a little bit differently because Ralph's taking a break for the month. So I'm going to have each member of the YKY gang come on and do a film with me in a little truncated version. So we've already dropped. I did Simba. Bang Bang is going to drop, and I also did Jallikattu with Drew. So those probably will have dropped by the time this one comes out. So for that reason alone, you should really subscribe. You should hit the notification button so you know when these come out, and hit the like button. I'm going to say something else that we don't usually say. One of you asked me why we don't get more views because they enjoy the show. And there's a lot of reasons why. A lot of stuff we watch gets copyright hit, which affects the algorithm. But I think one thing that might help is, and we never talk about this, is share the video. If you know people out there might like a Westerner's perspective on these Indian films, share it with them. Maybe that'll get us more subscriptions. We're always trying to figure out a way to do it. That might be one way. Okay, that's my plug for subscriptions. Okay, so the film that I'm going to talk about first and then bring Sean on is Munna Bhai M.B.B.S. And this is off the viewer wheel. This movie was sold to us by Satyam. So thank you for that pick. And so I'll tell you what I think about it. First of all, it was an obvious remake of Patch Adamas, the Robin Williams film. But I also think, I don't know if you're familiar with the Rodney Dangerfield film, Back to School. It kind of reminded me of that, too. So this was a 2003, that's the year this film came out. It was directed by Rajkumar Hirani. I think it was his first film, if I read that right. It starred Sanjay Dutt, who I saw in PK and Raw 1, but didn't know much about him. And as I did more research on this film, I found out, like, I also didn't know that this was a series of films with Munna Bhai. And I kind of like to see some of the other ones to see what they do with this particular character. Also, when it was Sunil Dutt, his father, who plays his father in this film, and they had a pretty emotional scene that I read was emotional for real for each of them. So that was kind of cool. Arshad Warsi, who was in Simba, Gulma, Fun and Limited, and I guess he was a guy that was going nowhere in Bollywood, and this film kind of put him on the map as the sidekick, Circuit, and he had a kid named Short Circuit, which I thought was funny. Gracy Singh, who was in Lagaan, and Boman Irani, who I've seen in Three Idiots, Dawn 1 and 2, and PK. So he was back, kind of playing the same role from Three Idiots. So this film, the basic premise of the film is a criminal Don, a criminal, but a nice criminal, but a criminal nonetheless, has to lie to his parents that he's a doctor. So he turns his mansion into a hospital to pretend that he's a doctor. And the parents are so proud of him. And, they're so amazed by what he's been able to do. Well, then the parents find out through circumstance that he's not a doctor. And that's the big emotional scene where his father realizes that he lied to him. And it's very emotional, and they're crying, and he's beside himself. So he decides he is going to go to school to become a doctor. And through the course of this, you meet Bomani's character, who ends up being the dean of this medical school. And he very much like the virus in Three Idiots. I also found out that he was 4 months younger than Sanjay, and he's playing a much older guy. So it's him going to this medical school, cheating to get in, cheating to stay in there. But through his attitude, his perseverance, and his magic hugs, which Wolverina Pagan told me it was called Jadoo Ki Jaffe, which became very famous in India. This magic hug, and apparently he can solve a lot of the world's problems by just hugging people. Look, this is a feel-good movie, much like Patch Adams. I wasn't a big fan of Patch Adams. There were things about this movie I found a little sappy, to be honest with you. But the lead character won me over because he wasn't like the lead character that I've seen in other films. He was kind of different, very funny. But when he needed to get emotional, it was pretty emotional. But there was a couple things like Bomani had this. It was called laughter therapy to help him deal with stress. And throughout the movie, and I don't know if you've ever seen the Inspector Clouseau movies with police inspector or chief inspector Dreyfus, played by Herbert Lom. He used to do the same thing whenever he talked about killing Clouseau. He would, well, Bomani's character does this throughout the movie. That's kind of his thing. He was a little over the top for me, but it's a comedy, and it's an over the top comedy, so whatever. I thought some funny scenes. His gang was really funny, like the gang that couldn't shoot straight. When they walked into the college, they walked in like it was West Side Story, like they were going to when you're a jet. They just slow motion walk. That was funny. They did a Michael Jackson routine, so that tells you how old this movie is. I thought one scene that was funny, when he first goes to school, he's got to go to this big lecture hall. So he walks into the class a little bit late, and the entire lecture hall stands up and says, "Good morning, sir." Like he's the professor. He's like, he can't figure out what's going on. So then he sneaks up to the one of the seats and just sits down. And that's when Bomani's character comes in and starts leading the lecture. That was funny. He also had this line that he uses throughout the movie. Anytime someone gets upset, he says, "Dump the tension, dude. Dump the tension, dude." He said that throughout the entire movie, and other people started saying it too as he's winning people over. They had, I have a question about this for Indian films in general, and please, you can let me know in the comment section. I don't know if it's a subtitle translation or if this is what they're really saying. Whenever they describe somebody as being like a troublemaker, they always say rascal. At least that's what the subtitle says. Is that what they're really saying? And is that something that is a common thing used in your language, that you call each other rascals? Because they did that a few times, but that's in a lot of other movies. And this time it just, I wanted to ask about it. So let me know what's the deal is with rascal. Okay. They did this dance number with a boy that was suicidal, and he's not talking to anybody, and his mother's beside herself, and Munna Bhai, reads the kid the riot act. And then they do this, well, I thought was a pretty cool dance number to try to lift the kid's spirits up, and it ends up working. So I really like that dance number, because he's not the greatest dancer in the world, but the way the whole hospital moved and his gang and everything, it was a cute thing. It was a cute thing. They played this table game called Carom, I think it's called. And the one scene that got me the most emotionally was the scene where the guy's father, the old man, he's kind of like in a, not a coma, but it was almost like he was in a coma. He's not eating and he's not responding, but he played this game. So Munna Bhai brings the carom table in the middle of the hospital and starts playing loud enough so the guy in the hospital bed can hear him. And now he comes walking over, and that whole scene was just a beautiful scene and an emotional scene, and everyone's got tears down their eyes. And I got to admit, I got a little misty on that one. And then there's also a young guy who has stomach cancer, and how that plays out, and how it plays out for his career. That the whole point of this about his character was he doesn't understand how in medicine you have to compartmentalize and not become personally involved with your patients. You don't want to know them personally because they're probably going to die. So it's very cold, and he doesn't understand that. So he was bringing something to this hospital that they didn't want. And because of that, he ends up winning everybody over, including the dean and his daughter, the dean's daughter, who was very pretty, by the way. He wins, who's also a doctor, who wins her over. by this, by his personality and his outlook on things. In fact, he wins the entire staff of the hospital who want to go on strike. So this was a feel-good movie. I want to hear what Sean thinks about it, because I think, if I remember right, in the past, he has not talked about Patch Adams very lovingly. So I'm wondering what he thinks about this. Now, do I think there was some problems with it? But my biggest problem with this film was he was trying to be a doctor, but but nothing he was doing was really about becoming a doctor. Like, he cheated on exams, he cheated in a review, and he never really did anything that you would do if you were learning to become a doctor. Where Patch Adams, he was a resident. That was kind of, it was, so the plot was just to get him in the hospital so he could do all these magical things. So that's my, the premise of the movie is you can cure just about anything with a magic hug, but that's not true, because the kid with cancer, spoiler alert, ends up dying in his arms, basically. But he did want the hug. So you can't stop death, but maybe you can make it, what's the word? Not more pleasant, but maybe it doesn't have to be as scary. Maybe that's the premise of the film. But I will say that I really like the character. I like Sanjay Dutt. He was very different, like I said, and I want to see some of these other movies. I also understand that he's notorious for playing bad guys. I also know he's got a background in real life with some issues with the law, which I did a little reading about. But I enjoyed him. I enjoyed this. I can't wait to hear what Sean has to say about it. So why wait? Why don't we bring him on right now? So you know the drill. If you just take a moment, please welcome to the 20-ish minute review, author, screenwriter, Sean Paul Murphy. Sean, welcome to the 20-ish minute show.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Well, it's wonderful.
I love 20 minutes of stuff.
Well, normally it's a 10-ish minute.
Debbie's never had that.
That's right. Well, this is a free-flowing format, and I figured with you guys on, we could have a little more conversation, so I stretch it from 10 to 20-ish. So how's that sound?
That sounds great.
All right, so this was a viewer choice.
What are we going to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about Munna Bhai M.B.B.S, which was a viewer choice from, I want to make sure I say it right, Satyam. He's, I don't even know if it's a he, I assume so, suggested this film. I watched it. I already gave my take on it in the first 15 minutes. So I'm going to kind of give you the floor and give me your overall feeling about this film. I'm kind of dying to hear what you think. So the floor is yours, the virtual floor.
Well, all I can say is I like this film a lot more than Patch Adams.
Okay, that's right. I mentioned that in my thing because I don't remember you being a big fan. And by the way, I wasn't a big fan of Patch Adams either. I thought it was way too sappy. But okay, go ahead. So you like this better?
Well, I do want to say that one thing that worried me on some, what was it, the Stars at Night, or the Amir Khan movie was that when he first came into the classroom, I'm like, oh my God, this could be Patch Adams. But thank God it wasn't.
You're talking about the musical number in the classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the musical number in the classroom was fine.
Yeah.
As long as it didn't keep going.
You're right.
Now, I want to tell you, I really like this film a lot. Of the romantic comedies that I've seen from India, this is my favorite one.
Really?
My favorite romance would be The Lunchbox. But, of romantic comedies, because I don't count like Ega a romantic comedy.
What, the Fly movie? Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
But I just really like Sanjay Dutt. I thought he was very charismatic. If a little old for this role. And I think he seemed almost too nice to be a gangster. But then again, I don't think the Indian audience has a problem with that because he's played bad guy, a lot of bad guys.
He's known for playing bad guys.
Yeah, but he's so good. He's so good in this. And also he was a bad guy, he went to jail and
Yeah.
I have not
Oh,
seen the movie about his life yet, but
the
I
real
plan
guy.
to.
You're talking about the real guy. Yeah.
The actor,
Yeah.
so I think because to me he was such a nice guy. He was so into honesty and fairness that my only difficulty was buying that he could kill people and kidnap people and rob people, but he was so charismatic, and so was what's Grace Singh,
Yeah.
and I thought she was beautiful and charming, and she was in Lagaan, which we had seen
That's right.
recently,
That's right.
and but really, in a sense, the heart of the film is the competition between him and his intended father-in-law. I forgot what his name, Boman
Bomani.
Irani.
Bomani
Irani.
Irani. Bowman
And
Irani, excuse me.
Boman Irani,
Yeah.
who we have seen in a number of films,
That's
but
right.
best as the virus. In this film, he kept reminding me, who's the American actor who plays in the Gary Sanders show?
Jeffrey Tambor or Rip
Yeah.
Torn? Jeffrey
Jeffrey
Tambor.
Tambor. He, especially with all this laughing, this insincere laughing.
The laughing therapy.
Yeah, which was I think was a great touch for the character. And particularly because Sanjay did not know why he was laughing.
Right.
So the scene where he's like, I'm not interested in your daughter, Chinky, anymore, because I'm in love with someone else. And it's like, well, who? And then because he didn't know that Chinky was Dr. Sulman, he's like, I'm in love with Dr. Sulman. And he like starts laughing. He's like, oh, I knew you would understand and everything. But I just found it really charming. I thought the guy who played Circuit was very good. I want to see the film where he and the guy who plays Circuit take Mahatma Gandhi around. What's it? Carry On.
That's another Munna Bhai movie. Munna Bhai movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked that one up and I'm like, oh, that seems like that one.
That resurrected, this movie resurrected that guy's career because he was going nowhere till this film. And this film turned him into a comic actor.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific.
Yeah, very funny.
You know what? He kind of reminded me of he had sort of the gravitas of a Paul Sorvino, kind of a younger Paul Sorvino. He's got.
You talking about Circuit or Mona?
No, Sanjay.
Yeah, yeah.
He had a lot of expressions you would see Sorvino do in some of his earlier films before he settled into gangster roles.
Yeah.
And I just think he was terrific. The girl was terrific. The father, is that Dutt's real father?
That's his real father. That's why that scene where they were both crying, they were still crying after the director yelled cut.
Yeah.
It was very emotional.
The father was very good. And, having seen Kasari, I don't think they were, these weren't, what is it, Sikhs. But when the father left and he wouldn't wear his turban, it was such a big act.
Well, what's the significance of the turban? Because that's a question that I had for the audience, because I don't quite get that. That was a big deal that he was not wearing his turban.
Well, in Kasari, that was the one thing that would shame them.
That's right.
But they were Sikhs, and these people
right.
were not Sikhs.
Is that the culture? Is that is that something in the culture that's a, I don't know what is it a sign of by wearing that?
Well, the thing is, it's hard for us to understand because if we knew, like they mentioned, the village they were from, if we knew what state in India that village was from, it might be more significant to us, but I do know that is a big deal because very few people in any of the quote unquote Bollywood films we see wear turbans.
That's right. That's right.
But after Kasari, and it's sort of like they were like all the Muslims like, we're gonna take that proud turban off your head.
And they were giant. Those turbans were giant.
And the pledge from the bad guy after the noble fight was, take whatever you want, but do not touch that man's turban.
Right.
So even though I didn't know the significance of this turban to this character, the region or anything, but the fact that, this is the first time he'd been seen outside without his turban was, I knew that that was a very big emotional significance that would really affect the son, and
Yeah.
I also say, we've been watching so many of these Malayalam films that don't have the musical numbers that these films have, the Bollywood films. And I really enjoyed all of the musical numbers in this film.
Well, it worked. It worked within the story as opposed to just throwing a musical number like that one in the hospital room with the suicidal kid.
Oh, that was terrific.
I really like that, with everybody involved with it, the hospital staff, his gang.
Yeah. And I liked it when they brought the girl in too, that music.
For the guy with the stomach cancer.
But I just thought that, the first one you're talking about, where it's like, well, why are you going to try to commit suicide? Is it a woman? Your mother loves you, and she's loved you for 27 years here, to kill yourself over some woman you've known for 6 months. And then they do that, that number, and it's hilarious. He's talking about how he falls in love with this girl, and he's beating guys up for things they say, and then she marries someone else, and it's like, well, what happens? And it's like, well, then I saw Pamela, or whatever her name was.
And you see the kid starting to smile a little bit.
Yeah.
No, and that was great. I really like the musical numbers in this. You're right.
I love the one where the Zahir, he's dying and he's never been with a woman. And, and they bring that girl in and they're like lowering him down, lowering the girl down on him, and his gang, it's hard to believe that they're a bunch of criminals because they're all so much fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, criminals can be fun too.
Right. Well, they were the nicest. I mean, that was the nicest criminal organization you've ever seen.
Yeah. And it was a good setup for the Zahir thing because he's like, the man slapped me, and Circuit's like, who slapped you? I want to know his name. And then you see Zahir approaching him, and he thinks Zahir's going to kill him or something, but it's like, I've got these shirts for you. And then the guy goes out on the date and all.
Yeah, they went to the movie, right?
Yeah. So it's sort of like, it isn't that he slept with the girl, but I think for him, just this sexy girl going out on the movie. And he knew something at the end. He didn't know something that Sanjay didn't. He knew her real name. Because he said, oh, yeah, I went to the movies. What's her name? Who's that? And he goes, oh, that's her real name. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. So, I mean, it was really charming. And what was that, and even the romantic song that the girl sings, half the time it's in a fantasy, half of it's in a hospital and all. It was just a really enjoyable film. And, I was glad to see this because we've been watching, and I do enjoy the serious films. I mean, I think Kalalangi Nights is like, I'm going to do a blog on my blog about my 10, it was going to be the 5, but I couldn't narrow it down. My 10 favorite Indian films since we started this series. And that's definitely going to be on it. And I thought that was charming. But, it was good to go back to a movie with musical numbers that, worked well in the context of the film.
And was much lighter in tone, in tone than some of the movies we've been watching.
Yeah, and I enjoy that. And is the magic hug, that's the Patch Adams thing. Is the magic hug kind of goofy?
Well, Wolverina told me that's called Jadoo Ki Jaffe, and that became a really big thing in India when this movie came out. The magic hug. Cool. Yeah.
There's worse things that could happen.
That's but I was saying my one criticism of the movie was all his time. By the way, I didn't just compare this to Patch Adams. I compared it to Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield because it definitely reminded me of that too.
Oh yeah.
But the thing that my only criticism was even though he cheated to get in medical school, he actually did almost nothing that you would do to further yourself in medical school throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I was like, okay, so you're just going to hug everybody and that's about all you're going to get. You're going to be a doctor when this is over. That's the only thing. But it didn't. That's why, to me, it was less Patch Adams, more Back to School. Like his personality won everybody over, including Boman, the dean. That's what I liked about it. And he's
Well,
not the
even
tip
before that, before he gives the test, the other doctors who are teachers are giving
are
him
helping
the
him.
answers.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, and I really liked how he turned to matron,
Oh yeah.
to it
The
and
entire
everything.
staff, the guy who swept the floors.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
And I could legitimately see that,
Yeah.
happening. A guy like that, doing that and winning people over. But even the doctor, I was sitting there thinking, the doctors who are helping him, what are they going to do when he graduates?
Well, that was my only problem with the movie. But putting that aside, it was his character. And again, he's a little older leading man than we're used to seeing in these films. Now, the person, Shah Rukh Khan, was originally cast in this, and he injured his neck. And Sanjay was another role. I'm not sure which one. And then
Hopefully not the guy sweeping the floor.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He was probably playing the father.
I think he was the stomach cancer patient, actually. That's who I think he was originally. But so they offered him the role, and he wasn't sure he wanted it. And his father's the one who told him, you should do this. And he read the script, and he was a different kind of leading man because he was a little bit older. But but again, it was like Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School. That was a big hit. So that's kind of how I looked at that. And I do want to see some of this. I've seen him in other stuff, but I didn't know him.
Yeah.
Now that I know
him in, what did we see him in?
he was in PK.
Yeah, PK.
And he was also in a movie Raw 1 that I did on 10ish-Minute Review, which is a Shah Rukh Khan movie. But I want to see
he's
another
in part 2 of KGF. We didn't watch.
which I have not seen. I want to see the other, like you said, the Munna Bhai sequels. I want to take a look at those because this group of characters, including Circuit, I think is a fun group to be with, and you want to see what he's with Mahatma Gandhi. What's he going to do with Mahatma Gandhi? Do you know? I mean,
yeah.
So
yeah, and how did he get back in time?
Right, exactly.
I guess they're just putting this character where they want, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
and and this is part of what I love about Indian cinema. In this case, a whole movie takes a left turn. I mean, here's a contemporary film, and then they're going to put him back when Mahatma Gandhi's alive. Circuit.
How do they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I also thought it was funny at the end when Circuit had a kid, they named him Short Circuit.
Yeah.
That was funny. I felt the same way about this movie. I really liked it. It was nice to, again, watch something a little bit lighter and see someone that we really haven't seen in a leading role who was very charismatic.
Yeah.
He didn't have gorgeous hair like most of these guys. I mean, he didn't. He didn't, when I saw him, I thought he looks more normal than a lot of the leading men in these Indian movies.
He looks more like working class.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that worked for his character. And they said he lost weight for this movie, so I don't know what he normally looks like. Because that scene where they don't call it hazing, ragging or something.
Yeah.
When he got up on the table and took his shirt off, and he's totally into it, and they're all like, "Okay, I guess we're not going to do this anymore." I thought that was funny too.
Well, I liked, he did have muscles and all, but he
did. Well, that one scene,
he wasn't like Amir Khan.
No, he wasn't ripped like those guys.
Yeah, but you could tell he had the kind of muscles that people have who beat people up.
Right. Exactly.
He doesn't have these sculpted muscles like like I do.
And me too.
Yeah,
I don't show it off, but All right, good. So I guess we both give it a big thumbs up. We'd get, how many Ladoos would you give it?
I would give it 5. I really, really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's good, because I knew I thought I remembered you didn't like Patch Adamas, so I wasn't sure how you were going to go for this.
I loved Back to School.
Yeah,
I wish every Rodney Dangerfield movie was that good.
Yeah, that was a great
most
movie.
of his career sucked.
Yeah,
but one of the thing about his relationship with the dean is that what's his name?
who was the dean in that?
From Deliverance and
Warren Beatty.
Ned Beatty.
Ned Beatty. Yeah, Warren Beatty.
And his name was Martin.
Yeah,
so
Dean Martin.
Hey, Dean Martin.
Hey, he liked him. The dean liked him. It was the professor that didn't like him, that was trying to get him out of there. Oh, Sean froze. Now, I don't know what that means. I think he can still hear me. Sean is. Oh, there you go. You froze just for a second. All right, listen, before you freeze again, thank you for doing that. Now we're going to do a little what have you watched as a tribute to Ralph. If you haven't watched anything, because I sprung this on you, I didn't let you know ahead of time. Anything out there that you're watching?
Well, I can tell you what I am going to be watching tonight and tomorrow morning. I'm going to be watching a number of low-budget horror films because there's suddenly a lot of interest in my script on Final Table, and I have a meeting at 1 with a producer
Tomorrow?
and 2 of her films. Yeah, 1.
Oh,
in the
wow, that's
afternoon
awesome.
tomorrow. And 2 of her films are on Tubi, so I think Debbie and I are going to watch those. She's taking a
Oh,
nap now. Hopefully, I can wake her up.
so you can go
It's
in with a
Art of
little,
the Dead
you
and
can suck
It
up a
Watches.
little.
Yeah, yeah,
That-
and it's sort of like their resume.
yeah,
My resume is the script.
yeah, right.
So it'll be fun. It should be a lot of fun.
Well,
And,
good luck.
I've been looking for strangely, I was looking for documentaries, and because there's so many options. Like 2 nights ago, I sat down in front of the TV, went to the remote, and I'm like, one thing after another. Oh, I want to watch that, but I wonder what else is on. You ever get there and
Yeah, oh, yeah.
and you sit there
Yeah.
and you go through it for an hour and you haven't
Yeah.
picked anything, And then
Yeah.
I kept wanting to watch films I'd seen before, and I'm like, well, that doesn't seem fair. I should watch something I haven't seen. So it's
It's funny
I
you
have a
mentioned
number of harm.
documentaries. I just watched a documentary on John Ford, and
What's it called?
John Ford Invents America, I think it was called. It's incredible. He did Stagecoach. I mean, he is the Western director, right? All
Yeah.
other directors who direct Westerns look to John Ford, but he was a cranky, he was not a nice guy up until the end too. He was just a nasty guy, but you can't argue with his films. And he also did some stuff, he was a hardcore conservative, but he worked in like The Prostitute and Stagecoach was a very different interpretation. When he did the movie with Woody Strode, the Jeffrey Hunter, Woody Strode, when he was they thought he raped a white girl.
Yeah.
What the hell was the movie? I can't think of the movie.
I know what it is. Yeah.
But that was a big deal to put Woody Strode as a lead in that film, and that's what he was like, because even though
and he would
took
punch you if he didn't like what you were saying.
Well, that's right, and he
would
made
physically hit you.
He made he did, was it Henry Fonda in Mr. Roberts? They never worked together again after that film.
Yeah, because Ford, and it is one thing that dates some of the Ford films is the humor.
Yeah,
it is very broad.
Yeah,
it's fine in something like The Quiet Man, but if you look at like even The Searchers, the humor's a little over the top. And I know if we bring that to the podcast, Ralph is going to really object to the humor more than anything else. He'll overlook the great parts of the movie and concentrate on that. And Henry Fonda, who had played
Mr. Roberts
on Broadway,
didn't
like the humor in the film, and he was even telling Jack Lemmon to be bad.
Yeah,
like don't do it. But to me, I listened to Jack Lemmon's commentary track on Mr. Roberts, and it doesn't go all the way through the movie. It's one of those ones that shows up now and then. And to me, the most fascinating thing was, Jack Lemmon was like the height of his arrogance, that he's like a great actor. And he was talking about, he did this TV show, they had a lot of live TV drama back then. And just to give himself a challenge, he played the character left-handed, on television. And Ford likes to surprise his actors. Like in The Informer, he kept Victor Mature up drinking all night, and did the scene where he's questioned the next morning when he was like totally out of it. And that's the scene that won Victor Mature the Oscar. So Ford had been keeping, Lemmon, who plays Pulver, away from, James Cagney. And then he's like, you have a call, and it's like, I know what it is. He's going to he's going to give me one of my big scenes with, Cagney, and try to catch me off guard. So when he finally meets Cagney, Cagney's a movie star. People think of him as a movie star, not an actor. So he walks up to Cagney and introduces himself, and Cagney goes, so still pretend still pretending to be left-handed. You know, so I love it that James Cagney, who's like a movie star, had seen
Oh yeah.
Jack Lemmon on television and knew he was faking the left-handed thing.
Well, him and Ford and Fonda got in a fist fight, and they never worked together again after that film.
Who's the guy that was married to Natalie Wood at the end?
Robert Wagner.
He punched Robert Wagner went to be on one of the films. I forgot which one it was. Oh, he wanted to tap under. He wanted one of the roles in The Searcher. No, it was like a war movie, and he complained about something. He was wearing all this thing, and Ford just walked up, popped him in the eye, and knocked him over.
Really?
You know, yeah. And then he still tried to get into The Searchers after that. And he's like, nope, not interested. You know,
I mean, they don't make them like that anymore, obviously.
If they did, they'd be in jail.
Well, they would be. But, you know, like I said, you can't argue with the influence that John Ford and the way he shot stuff and his, you know, the way he developed characters in films that everybody uses now, whatever he is, you know. So it was a really fascinating documentary. I love the old Westerns that he did.
They talk much about his brother Francis?
Not really. He wouldn't, you know, it's funny when he, because I don't know how it was. They had footage from his last interviews with, not Bogdanovich. And he was old and he had an eye patch and he was cranky, and he would ask him a question and he'd be like, why the hell do you want to answer? Why do you want to ask me that? The hell you want to ask me that for? And it was just funny the way he was responding. And Bogdanovich was like, yeah, he's still cranky.
It was hero worship for him.
Yeah. So yeah. And I could see that. He did the same thing with Orson Welles. So, you know, another great audio track. I mean, that interview with Orson Welles is fantastic. I love that interview.
And Orson Welles is a real raconteur. You know?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Okay, so listen, that's it. I thank you so much for doing this, and I know Sean and myself would be so happy if you guys subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button. But more importantly, and I mentioned this at the beginning, I think one way for us to increase our subscriptions is if you know anyone out there who is into Indian cinema and might enjoy a Westerner's point of view, please share the video with people. Maybe that will get us more, because we're definitely struggling with the algorithm. And look, frankly, we all work, so we can't do content every day like the big guys that get 1 million hits. It's not possible. Maybe in retirement we can do it, but not now. I'm trying to. I've already. This is my 4th one in 5 days, so I'm trying to crank these suckers out. So we'll get them out this week. But Sean, I really do appreciate you coming on. I want to thank you for
I love it. I hope you have Debbie on too, man.
I'm going to have Debbie on. She already picked her movie. And I want to thank Satyam again for picking this film off the viewer wheel. And Sean, thank you again. And good luck tomorrow. Good luck tomorrow with your
my
screenplay.
Producer meeting. Yeah.
Because I know if you get on there might be a shot for me.
Well, hopefully.
By the way, I played Ensign Pulver in the play.
Mm-hmm. Great role.
Ding, ding. It was a great role, but it was a community theater play, and I was in 9th grade when I did it.
Okay.
Imagine that. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he was the only person who, who went around, what was it, a spinster by asking her a direct question, you know, and also just want to say one more thing about Mr. Roberts.
Yeah.
What a great way for William Powell to go out.
Oh yeah.
As the Doctor. And
Doc. Yeah. Yeah. He was great.
What a great way to go out.
Yeah. Yeah. He died soon after that, right?
Oh, he lived a while, but that was his last movie.
Yeah.
He retired after
the
that.
White hair, making the whiskey. Remember that?
Yeah. Who would rather have someone make whiskey for you than
the Thin Man?
Yeah.
Than the Thin Man. That's right. All right, Sean. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.